Understanding is not intelligence. Understanding is a prerequisite to intelligence. And what's a prerequisite to understanding? Consciousness. Therefore, true intelligence, whether it's artificial or otherwise, requires consciousness, at least according to Sir Roger Penrose. Now, personally, I'm less interested in the way SRP, that's what I'm going to call him from now on, makes these concepts prerequisites of one another. But I am really interested in one key thing he said about understanding. When kind of pressed on it by Lex Friedman, and I'm, not an exact quote here, he basically said there's a stepping back quality needed for understanding. And this to me merits a lot of attention. For one thing, I can't remember the timeline exactly, but I remember seeing this episode when it came out. And I remember at some point, either before or after, I made the connection to Google's neural architecture search. Because what Google's neural architecture search does is before evaluating a problem, it steps back, the way Sir Roger Penrose said, and tries to look at the problem from the outside and evaluate the best method, the best neural network architecture, the best hyperparameter optimization strategy, for example, to then go and solve that problem. So I think Sir Roger Penrose would look at that, and to kind of use his own lingo from that episode, he would say that's probably one unit of proto-understanding. Notice what this requires. This requires a larger space to operate in. Meaning you can't be confined to a single architecture, for example. You can maybe perhaps stack architectures. You can maybe have a logic outside of a particular architecture that communicates with it. But in order for you to be able to step back and look at the problem from the outside, you have to be existing in a larger space than your entire architecture, your entire approach. In other words, the AI system, the agent taking actions, cannot be confined to a single problem-solving space. What's further fascinating about that episode is SRP also invokes Gödel's incompleteness theorem. And by the way, if you've never heard of Gödel's incompleteness theorem, I strongly recommend watching a video by Vertasium on it. Amazing video. But high level, basically, what that theorem says is, if you know the rules associated with a system, you can use your knowledge of those rules to transcend that system. Remember that word transcendence, by the way. It's going to come up a lot. Transcendence also requires a larger space to operate in, not being confined to a single space. So it made me think, the ability to step back, the ability to be in a larger space. Do we have to create abstractions of neural networks? Do we have to couple neural networks to things like low-order predicate ontological old-fashioned AI, like that company, I believe it's spelled CYC out in Austin. They write it in Lisp. Do we have to stack our scaled neural networks to some kind of logic like that? Do we have to do something, like I said earlier, like neural architecture search, to actually create what I'm going to call artificial understanding? It also made me think of a quote by Sir Isaac Newton. Fascinating quote about understanding, incidentally. He famously said, "A man may imagine things that are false, but he can only understand things that are true. For if those things be false, the apprehension of them is not understanding." That quote, along with the implications of Gödel's incompleteness theorem, And the fact that Sir Roger Penrose brought up Gödel's incompleteness theorem when talking about intelligence and understanding collectively made me wonder what it is about possibly being connected to quote unquote ground truths. I don't want to say accurate information because that's not what we mean. But the way Newton talks about understanding, it's almost like there's a mechanistic definition there. It has to sink in. It has to be correct for you to understand something. You know, the artificial intelligence systems we have, they can do a lot of computation, but there's no prerequisite of anything being correct. So, what is it? What's the connection there?